hours every day. They set an example, they set a bar that I tried to meet. And so I just want to acknowledge them. I'm sure Anthony would be here if you could. Sometimes I affectionately call him my older brother, my big brother. So shout out to him and his leadership, Black Faculty Student Staff Association. Another thank you, I want to thank my department, history department. Many of my colleagues are here. Raise your hand in your history department. Keating, Jones, and Liv here. Thank you, history department colleagues. Yeah, so much I can say about my department. I mean, again, I've been very blessed to be able to have a very welcoming and supportive experience here in my department at Cal State San Bernardino. That's not always the case, right? I mean, there are certainly some institutions where maybe as the only Black face in the room, you may be ignored, or your research may be discounted, or people may have certain assumptions about you. And my experience in my department has been exactly the opposite, right? I've always felt supported. I've always felt like my voice was welcome, my research was appreciated. And so I can't say enough about how much I appreciate my department. Of course, we're not perfect, right? Of course, like any department, we have our challenges, but I certainly value every member of the department, and I definitely am proud to be a part of this department. So thank you, history. So of course, there's many others. I could go on with some acknowledgments and thank yous around our university. But Dr. Gamble asked me to talk a little about my journey, so I'll transition there. And thinking about my journey to this point, I start with my grandmother, right? So my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother, she grew up in a sharecropping family in northern Louisiana during the Great Depression. And as a teenager during the 1940s, left the cotton fields as soon as she could, basically, and along with her siblings, made her way to California and then eventually up to Seattle. And so she was like my second mom. I spent a lot of time with her growing up, so I definitely got to know her very well and enjoyed her love and affection. I remember even as a little kid, she would say, Mark, someday you're going to grow up and you're going to help people. I can see that in your future. She was a very spiritual woman, a very Christian woman, and she would say, I see it. I see your future, and you're going to help people. I didn't know what she was talking about, and I was a kid, whatever. But I definitely love my grandma, and I think something about the way she put that faith in me or that confidence, I'm sure is a part of what I was able to achieve or where I've come in life. And so, she herself only had a sixth grade education. She was so it was actually on welfare for many years, living in low-income housing, but was a, proud, dignified, intelligent person despite her lack of schooling, and eventually worked as a seamstress and in a laundry for many years. And so I saw hard work, I saw dedication, I saw love of family, I saw faith, I saw community in my grandmother. And so that's definitely part of my journey. My mom, of course, is number one. So my grandma's daughter, or my mom's mom. So my grandma Doretha, my mom Margaret, was a single mom. Raising me and my older sister, living in Seattle. Again, right? Being a single mom, certainly in the 80s and 90s, was something that I remember hearing a lot about as if it was like a major deficit, or this kind of notion that, oh, if you have a single mom, you don't have a future, or your child is going to be impaired and so forth. And I never felt that, right? I felt loved, I felt supported, I felt like I had an advocate, a champion, and my mom gets all the credit for, again, inspiring me, giving me the sense that I could achieve what I wanted to if I put my mind to it, right? So I definitely want to shout out her. Growing up, we were, I would say, like lower middle class. We certainly weren't, struggling to put food on the table. But we definitely had to watch the budget at the same time, and so forth. And our family was not a family of people going to graduate school. And I think actually me and my sister, like our generation, is the first kind of generation to go to college in our family. And so it just kind of gives you a sense of kind of where I come from and in the community that I come from, in inner city South Seattle, was a fairly working class, lower middle class community, very diverse community. It's a community that I'm proud of, and I think also is a community that kind of is a part of who I am to this day. A couple other folks I want to mention. So my older sister Mika is also, as I mentioned, she got the college degree before me, and so she's definitely inspiring. Fast forwarding a little bit, so when I was 16, I had a surprise of an unplanned pregnancy. My son was born when I was a sophomore in high school. And so that definitely put my life on a new trajectory that I had not anticipated. But fortunately, his mom, Sina, was someone who we were able to work together and raise this child together, and support each other, even despite the challenges that came, right? So, as an undergrad, certainly through grad school, having to balance, being a parent and so forth, was a challenge. At this point, my son Savon, he's now 26, and he's kind of off doing life, and so I'm definitely proud of him. But I definitely have to acknowledge his mom, Sina, as someone who believed in me, supported me, and is definitely part of the success that I've been able to achieve. Along with all those folks, of course, there are many others. There were many, countless teachers and advisors, mentors, bosses, professors that I had who saw something in me, who encouraged me to think about grad school or, think about becoming the professor. For me, the main thing that kind of drove me was my own sort of curiosity and kind of passion to learn more. I definitely had that kind of follow your dreams, and I was sort of interested in just learning more. But when it came to like being a professor, that wasn't even a dream, right? That was beyond. And if you went back to Marc, 18-year-old, and said, you're going to be a professor one day, 18-year-old Marc would have been like, you're crazy. No way, not going to happen. And it just really wasn't something that was in my, not to say that I didn't feel like I could do it, but it just wasn't even like on the radar, so to speak. But what was on the radar is I knew I was interested in history. I was interested in studying human beings, and I was interested in social justice issues. I was really fascinated by just trying to understand how activism works, or how can you affect society. How did people try in the past? Like what things have they, kind of experimented with, and what worked, what didn't. And so those questions, and that kind of fascinating, like for me, kind of studying people was like the most complicated puzzle that one could possibly achieve or attempt. So I was fascinated in that way. And those interests led me to an undergraduate research paper on the Black Student Union in the 1960s. I was basically a senior writing my senior thesis paper, and I wanted to study it, and I had some great professors who supported me. And so I did this paper, and by the time it was done, I was like, wow, there's actual interesting history here. Like my hometown actually had interesting protests and connections to the national movement. And so a couple things came out of that. On the one hand, I was excited to finish the project and felt, pleased by the work that I had done. That paper actually was later published on this local history website. So I was honored to kind of get a publication, as a fairly young scholar, I guess, or a student. But also, I came away with that with a feeling of responsibility that I needed to share what I had learned, right? Like the research that I had gathered, if it just sat in my computer, or I guess on my floppy disk drive back in the day, you know, that I would be, I wouldn't be kind of living up to my responsibility to my community or to the people who I had studied. I felt there's responsibility to like try to share the information, make it more public, keep working at it, do something with it. And so that eventually led me to grad school, and it led me to the goal of finishing the book, writing a book about this and putting it out in the world. And so, if anything, you know, my department, sorry, this is the true story. Getting tenure, to me, I knew that was iffy, right? It's so challenging and there's so many moving parts. This is when I first was hired. In my mind, I didn't know if I was going to get tenure or not, right? As Dr. Gamble was saying, it's tough. But if I could just get the book done, if I could just get the book out there, I could walk away feeling accomplished. That at least I did my 6 years, I got the book done, and then I could leave, you know, without tenure, and I would still be happy. That was my sort of mindset when I first started, right? So you know, set the bar low, and then you know you can at least make it, right? So long story shorter, you know, the book came out last fall. Very happy to kind of see that out in the world. Also a little nervous seeing it out in the world too, but happy that it's done. Um, and then we get to tenure and kind of the next kind of phase in life. And so in many ways, I just feel so appreciative of everyone who has supported me, everyone who has contributed to my journey over the years. You know, from my mom and grandma and the women who raised me, on to, you know, my teen and 20 and, you know, 30s years, and now into my 40s. You know, it's just, I really feel like, you know, whatever I have achieved is a reflection of those around me and those who have supported me. And so it's not just me getting this thing right. I feel like it's definitely a group effort and a group success. So with that, again, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for hearing a little bit about my story. Thank you to everyone, Dr. Oliveras, you know, the Student Affairs, Black Student Success, BFSSA, all who helped make this event possible. Thank you all, and appreciate it. I'll stop there. Thank you.
That's so good.